You probably love potatoes, whether they're creamy mashed, crispy fries, or golden and baked to perfection. They're everywhere, and it's hard to imagine a world without them. But here's the twist. Just a few hundred years ago, eating a potato could have gotten you shunned, condemned, or even accused of dabbling in dark forces. Yes, really. In medieval Europe, this humble root vegetable was feared. People believed potatoes were cursed, calling them devil's apples. Rumors spread that they brought sickness, madness, and misfortune. In some places, the church even banned them outright, claiming they were unholy. But how did this demonic plant go from being feared and forbidden to becoming one of the most important foods in human history, a crop that helped end famine and reshape the future of Europe? The story begins far from Europe, in the high Andes Mountains of South America. Long before the first European ever laid eyes on a potato, the Inca people had been cultivating and thriving on it for thousands of years. It was a staple of their diet, perfectly adapted to their harsh climate. When Spanish explorers arrived in the 16th century, they brought potatoes back to Europe, expecting excitement and admiration. Instead, they were met with suspicion and fear. Unlike most crops, potatoes don't grow from seeds. You simply bury a piece of one, and it grows. To Europeans at the time, this was downright unsettling. Many thought it was unnatural. Some even called it witchcraft. And because potatoes grow underground, hidden from view and sunlight, their knobby, irregular shape only added to the mystery. They didn't look like food, they looked like something out of a nightmare. The fact that potatoes weren't mentioned in the Bible gave religious leaders even more reason to distrust them. If God wanted us to eat this, they said, He would have told us so. Then came the tragedies. Early adopters who tried to cook or eat potatoes often didn't know how to prepare them safely. Many unknowingly ate potatoes that had sprouted, containing natural toxins. The result? Illness, and sometimes even death. It only reinforced the belief that these strange roots were dangerous. When potatoes sprout, they create a chemical that is known as solanine, which is a poisonous substance. Even in low doses, it has the potential to induce nausea and abdominal pain. In greater quantities, it has the potential to be fatal. People in the village were said to have become extremely ill after eating these peculiar tubers, exhibiting symptoms such as fever, cramping, and vomiting. Others even passed out after collapsing. In addition, in a world where science and superstition were still intertwined, people did not blame poor cookery. They pointed the finger at evil forces, and the tales spread like wildfire, claiming that they originated from the devil himself. It was even asserted by some early scientists and medical practitioners that the shape of the potato, which was wrinkly, knobby, and twisted, appeared to be uncannily similar to the lesions that were observed on persons who were afflicted with lung disease. Fear was felt by more than just the average person. Not even academics and philosophers were willing to accept it. Denis Diderot, who was considered to be one of the most influential figures of the period, stated in his encyclopedia that the potato, regardless of how it is prepared, is nothing more than a tasteless, starchy, and mushy dish that is only suitable for peasants who eat for the only purpose of survival. However, this dread would not persist indefinitely. Again, Europe was suffering from starvation in the 1702. Wheat harvests had been unsuccessful. There was a scarcity of bread. At the same time, starvation spread like a shadow through the villages. They were shivering, starving, and in a dreadful state. In Prussia, what is now part of modern-day Germany, King Frederick the Great looked out at his decaying realm and asked a bold question. What if this weird underground tuber, the potato, could save us? He was aware of how satiating and nutritionally dense the potato was. Wheat was unable to grow in some areas. You didn't need the weather to be ideal. In addition, it was able to be kept over the severe winter months. Frederick considered it to be a miraculous harvest. As a result, he issued a royal edict and ordered all farmers to start cultivating potatoes in order to provide food for the kingdom. However, the public did not find it impressive. They laughed it off. What is this? Is that a clump of dirt? What they said was that not even the dogs would consume it. It appears that the king engaged in some ingenious behavior. Rather than coercing people into eating it, he made it appear to be of substantial value. Frederick gave the order for extensive royal fields to be sown with potatoes without any other crops. Following that, he positioned armed guards all around them. One of the most important directions that he provided to the soldiers was to watch over the potatoes, but not too tightly. Be sure to turn your back. You should try to fall asleep every once in a while. A bait was used. The villagers turned inquisitive, as was to be expected. The strange plant was being guarded by the men of the king. But why? Did it happen to be a royal delicacy? It's possible that they were mistaken if they thought it was valuable enough for soldiers. Consequently, one by one, they started slipping into the fields at night, taking the potatoes that belonged to the monarch, and then covertly planting them in their own little gardens. In addition, it was a complete success. Within a short period of time, the same peasants who had scorned the crop were now cultivating it with pride. A word quickly traveled throughout the region. There was a noticeable increase in the number of potato crops planted on farms, in backyards, and in marketplaces. Along the other side of the border in France, there was a man named Parmentier who had his own scheme. Even though he was a prisoner during the war, he had managed to survive by eating potatoes every day. Not only did he make it through, but he also maintained his health. When he returned to France, he made it his mission to alter the way that people there saw potatoes. During the ceremony, he presented King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette with potato blossoms. In her hair, she wore one of them. He secured it to his coat with a pin. On the spur of the moment, potatoes became popular. After that, Parmentier went about playing the same game as Frederick, which consisted of guarding fields, posing as soldiers, and having nighttime robbers spread the harvest. Both cookbooks and gardening instructions were published by him. The Globe was even taught how to prepare French fries by the one and only. That's when everything started to shift. Wheat was unsuccessful in growing potatoes. They fed a greater number of people while using less amount of land. Neither mills nor machines were required for them. One might even cultivate them as a child, and in the event that famine struck, the potato was the only thing that kept people alive. The population of Europe started to skyrocket. A nearly twofold increase in the continent's population occurred between the years 1750 and 1850. The transition was even more drastic in Ireland, where the potato replaced other foods as the principal source of nutrition for the poor. Within a span of 60 years, the population increased from 4 million to more than 8 million. This was not the result of a battle, a richness of resources, or a significant scientific exploration. The reason for this was due to a single harvest. However, that was not the end of it. Potatoes were used for more than just providing food for people. They provided the impetus for the Industrial Revolution. The number of people who survived and the size of families both contributed to the growth of cities. Potatoes, which are inexpensive and high in calories, were a source of energy for both manufacturing workers and warriors. There was an abrupt increase in the strength of militaries, the size of workforces, and the number of food riots in countries such as Germany, France, and Britain. In the absence of it, it is possible that there would have been no modern Europe at all. Make sure you keep this in mind the next time you consume chips, mashed potatoes, or French fries. You are not simply eating a snack. You are stomping on a legendary figure.